Hey folks, have you heard about Ray Dalio and his predictions on the economy? The guy is speaking out, warning about a stagflation scenario, accumulated debt since 1945, and a potential nightmare in the U.S. national debt. Curious to understand how these factors can affect the whole world? Then stick with me in this video because I'm going to tell you everything in great detail. And oh, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, trust me and subscribe because this conversation is one you don't want to miss. Let's decipher the mysteries of the economy together with Ray Dalio. 5. Economic imbalance and excessive spending. You know, I was reading about Ray Dalio's concerns, this giant investor in the macroeconomic world. He's kind of sounding the alarm about a big problem, which is economic imbalance due to spending beyond our income. Like we're spending more than we earn, and he believes this could be a significant economic issue for us. So Ray, in his macroeconomic talk, is giving a view of the current situation. He talks about the short-term economic cycle, emphasizing that, after a period of growth, the economy is heading in the opposite direction, kind of contracting, you know? And he blames the pandemic and wealth redistribution a bit, that government story of distributing checks and the Federal Reserve lending money. And it doesn't stop there because he predicts an interesting situation called stagflation. It's a mix of economic weakness with high inflation, which is kind of weird because usually inflation occurs when the economy is booming. But he's saying we're in a different situation where the economy isn't doing that well, and inflation is rising. And this complicates the lives of the guys handling economic policy because traditional measures can worsen the situation. So besides this short-term drama, Ray is talking about a long-term drama. Since 1945, we've been accumulating a mountain of debts, creating a tense situation. He mentions the U.S. national debt, which exploded with pandemic spending. And here's a concerning detail. There's a risk that the U.S. may not be able to pay off all that debt, triggering a pretty complicated domino effect. He emphasizes the importance of investing in things that will improve productivity, like education and infrastructure. You know, balancing the scales. 4. Evaluation of the short-term economic cycle. So I was checking out Ray Dalio's ideas, this guy who's practically a guru in macroeconomics. He's shedding light on the situation of our short-term economic cycle. I'm talking about now, this very moment. And he's putting on the table the influence of COVID-19, those political changes we've seen, and how money is spreading, or rather, not spreading properly. Ray, in all this talk, points out that after a period when the economy grew like crazy, we're heading in the opposite direction, kind of shrinking. And this has a lot to do with the pandemic and that wealth distribution story, the government sending checks, the Federal Reserve releasing money, you know? He's kind of saying we're in that annoying phase after the party, like an economic hangover. But wait, there's more. He throws out a somewhat strange term called stagflation. Imagine a situation where the economy isn't doing that well, and at the same time, inflation is rising. It's a somewhat unusual scenario because usually inflation happens when the economy is booming. But Ray is giving a heads up that we're in a different situation where the economy isn't doing that well, and inflation is rising. This complicates the lives of the guys in charge of economic policy because traditional solutions can worsen the situation. And look, the guy doesn't stop there. He also talks about the long-term debt cycle drama. Since 1945, we've been sinking into debts, creating a somewhat tense situation. He talks about the U.S. national debt, which exploded with pandemic spending. And things get serious when he mentions that there's a real risk that the U.S. may not be able to pay off all that debt, which could trigger a sinister domino effect. Ray emphasizes that the solution lies in investing in things that will boost productivity, like education and infrastructure. I'm telling you, it's a delicate balance we need to maintain. 3. Concerns about stagflation. Man, what Ray Dalio is saying about stagflation is enough to make anyone skeptical. He's anticipating a crazy scenario with soaring inflation and a shaky economy. That's weird because usually inflation occurs when the economy is booming and everyone is spending money happily. But now it's different. The economy isn't doing that well and inflation is rising. It's like an extra complication, you get it? So Ray's challenging the decision makers up there, the policy makers. He's kind of saying that traditional solutions, those standard remedies we usually use to control inflation, may worsen the situation this time. It's like we're in a tricky situation without a clear instruction manual on how to deal with this crazy mix of high inflation and a struggling economy. The thing is, the folks managing economic policy will have to figure it out. Because if inflation is high and the economy is weak, what the heck are they going to do? Raising interest rates to control inflation can worsen economic weakness, and lowering interest rates to stimulate the economy can further inflate inflation. See? It's a complicated puzzle they'll have to solve, and Ray is there, kind of laying it out for everyone, warning that finding the way out of this economic labyrinth won't be easy. 2. Issues in the long-term debt cycle. Let's go, my friend. Ray Dalio is issuing a serious warning about the long-term debt cycle, and it seems we have a big mess to deal with. Everyone's focused on the short term, on that crazy dance the economy is doing now, but Ray is poking at problems that have been dragging on since 1945. It's like a long-standing drama, you know? He's emphasizing the accumulation of debts. Since World War II, we've been getting into more and more debt, creating a somewhat complicated scenario. Now imagine this along with the debt ceiling, like the nation's credit card limit. If we hit that limit, we can't borrow more money and things get tough. Ray is worried about this whole story. And there's more, man. He's talking about international demand for our bonds, like those papers we issue to raise funds. It seems that people abroad are not as interested in these U.S. bonds anymore, and that complicates the situation even more. If people don't want to buy our papers, we're in a bit of a bind. It's a part of the economic game that many people don't pay attention to, but it can have a huge impact. So, in summary, while everyone is distracted by the short term, Ray is drawing attention to a long-term soap opera involving old debts, the debt ceiling, and folks out there snubbing our bonds. It's the kind of thing that, if we don't solve it properly, can turn into a giant headache in the future. Ray is kind of giving us a heads up to wake up to this somewhat forgotten reality, you know? 1. National debt and possible default. Man, my buddy, things are serious in the United States, and Ray Dalio is getting to the heart of the matter with the national debt. The bill is high, especially due to pandemic-related spending. Ray, in all this talk, is a bit tense, worried about the real chance that the U.S. may not be able to pay off all that debt. And there are elements in this game that can make the situation even more hairy. He's giving a warning about this thing called the debt ceiling. Just imagine, it's like we have a giant credit card, and if we hit that limit, it's game over. We can't borrow more money. That already complicates things a lot. And there's another obstacle, the decreasing global demand for U.S. bonds. It's like the rest of the world isn't as interested in buying our papers anymore. This can be a sign that we're kind of falling out of favor abroad, you get it? Ray is hitting on the point that we need balanced solutions. It's not just about cutting expenses or printing more money. He emphasizes the importance of investing in areas that will boost our productivity, like education and infrastructure. It's like he's saying, hey folks, we have to solve this in a way that's not just patching things up, but investing in the foundations to genuinely grow. In short, the debt is high, the ceiling is at the limit, and people out there aren't as keen on buying our bonds. Ray is calling for a balanced game, like no craziness, investing in things that will really make a difference in the long run. It's quite a challenge, my brother, and Ray is right there on the front lines warning us not to mess up in this situation. And there you have it, folks. What an intense journey discussing Ray Dalio's predictions, right? If you enjoyed unraveling economic mysteries, don't forget to leave a like to support the journey. And if you haven't subscribed yet, let's be part of this community because here we simplify the economy in a way only we know how. Oh, and don't leave without dropping that comment. I want to hear your thoughts on what we discussed. Let's build this knowledge exchange together. Until the next video, folks.